was going to make a video. Um, so I'm going to be enrolling into the GED program they have at Richland College, which I think now is just the community Dallas Community College, for the GED to finish up my GED, hopefully, and that's what I'm trying to do when I get to Dallas. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed because homelessness, finding a good place to live, something nearby, transportation. Um, but I have 2 tests to complete. Hopefully, only have one left whenever I get there, and study, take the classes, and hopefully pass the test. But this is what the GED online video that I made earlier about having to leave the class because the teacher student, I talked about that, the details making me feel uncomfortable coming on to me, like uh, advancing like sexually, and kind of like this person was getting aroused when I was just trying to keep this as education as I could for my GED. So I made the video on it, but this is what they gave me when I went to the GED center where I take the test. Doesn't look legit. None of it looks legitimate, but this is the paper they gave me to log in and whatnot, and this is the form paper they gave me. So for those that kind of know what's going on, and so I'm going to throw this away, and then hopefully, I think it's like $100 to enroll into this speed course. When I was there at the GED test center, enrolling for this online course, which I took two different days, 2 tests, one math and one language arts and reading. They gave me this calculator, which is Texas Instruments. My father used to work for Texas Instruments. It's a popular calculator, but I figured I'd make a video on this to kind of give an idea about what's kind of going on. They play all these psychological games because they know about my dad's money ended up missing and stolen, and who took control of it, and whoever it is that did this plotted it all against my biological mother and my father and me. And they used my mother's identical twin to help assist them in the criminal activities to do this to my father. But like I said, I can't do anything much about it. It is hoping that somebody else can do something better about the injustice about what's happened. But like I said, this is what they gave. And when I bought this phone that I'm using right now to make this video, it's a Moto G pure Motorola phone that I bought on Amazon, and they're always tapping my phones. I cannot explain how heavily that this hacking into my phone, and it's literally like a computer. They're controlling from a remote location. Everything I do on my phone is like somebody hacking completely into a computer and controlling every corner and bit of it, manipulating video games, anything I touch on the screen, making the screens flicker off on. Literally, I'm pressing onto the screen, and it's doing nothing that I'm trying to press to open up an app or YouTube consistently all day. And I have enough knowledge about phones that it shouldn't be doing that. And so you can see these are track phones, which it's known for drug dealers to use these, but I don't know what the world of this is, but that's the serial number of the phone. But like I said, I thought I'd make a video on this because I'm pretty hopeless to find out who can help me, find out why, who, for what reasons, and what can I do to protect myself, and prove that, with evidence, even if I do, like, what is it that I can do about who's doing this? When I came to Dallas, when I came to Vermont here in St. Albans, I was really, really hoping to get my GED, and I couldn't even explain the level of torment of things that they're doing to me, because enough of how difficult it is to even be in total submissive, abusive behavior that they're doing that has no rational sense. None of this makes any rational sense other than to justify and bring up topics about the, sexual molestation that happened, and Miguel and Diana, and them trying to defend and justify and change the story about Ken and Sarah and their family, about doing this to my mother and Frankie and me, especially that my mother is disabled. But I don't know exactly who's responsible for this, but it's not, no one is bringing this information up more in a riot to make them into heroes and disclaim anything my mother and me had seen or happened, including Frankie. But like I said, I really don't know who to go to, and with who's controlling my every corner and inch of my life. Like, I put a lot of effort to get here, enroll into this GED class, even the GED online course that I was trying to enroll onto, and I put a lot of effort. They're sabotaging me. There's nothing that I can do. They're shooting me with electronic devices that are very sophisticated to mentally and emotionally control me, and then condition me like I'm some sort of robot. And I've gone to so many places pleading for my life, to traveling different places of the world, London, Mexico, all over the place in the at least like 100 different places in the United States, and so many different states, cities. And like, I even went to Washington, D.C. You can look this right here. This is where, now I walked into Washington, D.C., in the actual place that you see all the cameras where they make all the laws and everything, and actually met and shook hands with one of the senators at the time of Texas to try to, he wasn't available to speak to, but my efforts several times when I got there to try to figure out, is there a governor or is there somebody in power that can tell me? Because I don't know anything about the law systems. I don't know anything about the justice systems and law systems, how people can take power of attorneys, have legal rights over to your phone, and so on and so on and so on, about all these controlling things that they're doing to me. And they can do it legally because they have somebody that's spending all the money in the world and using lawyers, and I don't have a penny to my name. So they're able to victimize me in every which way, so that I can't defend myself. And one of the things that I want to say, that when I went to Ted Cruz's office at the time, this is like 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was before I was on disability. It was before I was on disability. And I went into the Senate's office, which was or to the governor's office. And I went into the representatives. I walked all throughout the area. And when I walked into the Senate's office to talk to the governor, he wasn't available. There was a girl, beautiful girl. This girl was like a model, like a supermodel. She looked a lot like Michaela. And when I walked in, I'm not kidding. When I walked in, look, these are the library. This is the library card. I went there when I went there the first time. When I went there the first time, I got this card, as you can see, to go to the library, contact, fill out applications, figure out what was going on, see the Library of Congress, as you can see. With no luck. And then I went there again in 2024. I mean, later on like another year or two later, and this is when I went there, and there was the time that I got this card is whenever they beat me. I got beat up in Washington, D.C. And as you can see right here, I was writing letters to the president. Went to the library here, got on the computer, writing all sorts of letters. You can see it's my bus card. This is the train and bus card that I was using at the time. That was being used for transportation while I was there. and but I really don't know what to do with this particular situation. But as far as me pleading for my life, that's all I was doing when I got there. But I want to talk more about the girl that I saw in the governor's office when Ted Cruz was. He's not the governor. I think they only serve one term when they're there. I don't know how, but it's every 4 years they have a new governor. And when I went there, there was a girl by herself, and uh, and I looked homeless. I looked just exactly homeless as the way that Michaela saw me when I saw her at the grocery store. And I felt immediately all the electronic devices weren't shooting at me, and she was basically identifying me. And she just walked right by me, and I didn't understand, what was going on, but I knew that she was looking and gazing towards something, like she was upset or know that somebody was victimizing me. There was a group of people that were there was groups of them that were torturing me and putting me on the streets and making me have a suffering life. But when I went into the governor's office and I looked homeless, there was a girl that looked like Michaela, same skin tone, facial hair, same type of hair, and she was working at the front desk. And she was very nice, and I talked to her, and I started, pleading for my life. I said, I didn't tell her all the details, but I said, I want to talk to the governor. Is there anyone I could talk to that's in charge that could tell me about all the stuff that's going on in my life? And she was completely aware of who I was. Like when I walked in there, she looked at me, she looked at the computer, and she looked at me, and she knew exactly who I was. Like there was already prior information. Why did that girl work at the front desk? I have no idea. I don't know why. Why this was a real heterosexual girl. This is a real female, and I could see that she was interested in helping me. Like she felt empathy. She felt empathy and compassion. But she seemed uncertain about who is doing this, and but I went in there, and I don't think that was a coincidence. That was not a coincidence at all, because I went to that same office like 3 or 4 times later. I think at least 2 or 3 times on that same visit frame that I was there. And she was only there, I think, twice of both times that I went there. And then like the third time, she wasn't there. Nobody was there. And the fourth time, it was like someone else. And then like a couple years later, I go back to Washington, D.C. to try to talk to somebody again there. And I asked for this girl, and I don't even know what her name is. She told me her name was Michaela as well. I can't remember she gave me her email, and she gave me a name, but I don't remember what her name was. She could have said her name was Michaela. I don't know. But I don't think she did, because it wasn't Michaela, that's for sure. Sometimes people give me fake names, and but I thought I'd make a video on this because I don't know what the circumstances is regarding Michaela's, like a person that looks like her just happened to know who I was when I walked in there. There was nobody in there. The hall's pretty empty. Everything was pretty empty when I walked in there. Like everyone knew that I was there, and I felt very much like people were kind of looking at me. I was like the enemy. I had lunch there, the cafeteria. Saw a bunch of these politicians and whatnot. I was like sitting in the corner, all scared, and it was just really bad, really crazy, very terrorizing to think that. Consistently thinking that who can frame me and set up a murder, have me murdered, and excuse me to be killed and tell everyone else a lie that it had happened. But there's so many corrupted, and there's so many people in there. You don't know who's doing what and who has control. But I know 100% that person that was there at the front desk knew who I was. They knew who I was. They absolutely knew who I was, and it's I don't know what the connection to this is. I'm trying to remember that girl's name, and she was dressed it was crazy because she was dressed, and she had the same dress on. She had the same dress on that I saw Michaela wear one of the first times that I met Michaela. The first time that I met Michaela, like a sort of a conservative, long dress, but just with a small slit on the side, it kind of revealing. Yeah, it's a very fancy dress, but she was wearing the same exact dress as Michaela when I saw her at the Lawrence Community Shelter several years later. Because when I went there, I was about 34 years old, 34 to 35. I think I had just gotten on disability within a year, or it was right before I got on disability. Because I went there several times pleading for my life, wanting no answers. What police I could be detectives. I went to FBI. I filled out. I probably wrote like 10 different letters, if not more, like 7 to 10 letters at least, to the president, typing up, please help me, tell me what can I do, who's doing this, tapping my phone, who to go to, like a full essay at the library, and doing everything I could. Um, so I thought I would make a video on this, that she was wearing the same dress as she was when I saw her in Lawrence, Kansas several years later, because I never knew that Michaela was my sister. Never knew this. And, when I see her at the Lawrence, when I saw her at the grocery store, and then I saw her at Magic Time Machine, I didn't know who she was in any kind of way. I was like, well, why is this girl just kind of, she seemed sort of protective in the idea, like, why did nobody tell me who this kid was? I don't know when she found out that I was her brother. But I know that when I saw her in Lawrence, Kansas, and I was there living there for like 7 months, I'd see her at least once a week, um, you know, helping other people, helping, working as the one of the attendants at the Lawrence Community Shelter. Um, she didn't say she knew who I was, and I knew. She looked at me. I mean, I could just tell that they know who I am. Somebody has been telling them good, bad, and other information they know. But that person would have not showed up there or any of these other places had she not cared at all, zero. So I thought it was important for me to talk about, because I don't know the details about, maybe she's helping along with the psychologist. Maybe they were firing her from all the jobs and she couldn't find a job and she couldn't go to work. And so they started harassing her to then try to sell her for sex or submit her, put her in a very bad circumstances so they can confine her and control her, which is very likely that they would have done to make sure that they can get away more with what they were doing to me. And time withers away, and it benefits Ken and Sarah Cooper and their gay community, because they don't want anyone helping me. They don't want anybody assisting or helping me in any kind of way. They're just turning as many people as they can against me. But I left and never saw Michaela again. I was 37 years old, 37 to 38. Yeah, I was like 37 to 38 years old when I left. And that was the last time I saw her. And, for her to be in Dallas and be in Lawrence, Kansas, I don't know if somebody was firing her from her jobs, making her work at restaurants. I don't know. But all I know is that it didn't bring good. I do know. It wasn't going to bring good because of what behavior of the corrupted police department and Ken and Sarah Cooper, and especially Kenneth at the radio station, because he's broadcasting this live and they're all celebrities with head crack and shit. So I thought it was important for me to talk about, because they know exactly what to do. They know exactly in every inch and corner and monitor everything you can imagine, all the money being spent to make sure they try to get my own sister against me, or try her to just never have any communication. For her to have no communication with me, and her put efforts to look for me and find me and talk to me, but she never told me that she knew that she was my sister, that's a tremendous amount of effort on her part. But I think also it's because there was a lot of people that were after her, and she knows. I think she knew there were real bad people set around her, real bad, and she knew that whatever even help that could have came along, that it was an exchange or something. Like it wasn't good. There was a lot of bad that came with that, and and it was strictly because they wanted to help Kenneth at the radio station and all this. And I told her, when I spoke to Michaela in person, I told her as much as I could. I said the murder attempt that was placed on me. I said, I was beaten horrifically bad. They're beating me. I was actually attending court in Washington D.C. for the beating that I took while I was at Lawrence, Kansas, and I made a video. On the recording of that sessions and placed them on Facebook and whatnot for others to see and what was going on and pleading for my life. But like I said, they want to disclaim me that I was just crazy in every way, because the more that anybody thinks that I'm crazy, the more crazy that it seems that I'm talking, the more less likely it is that anyone's going to want to listen or help me or want to participate and completely ignore me. And that's exactly what they want, because the perpetrators and criminals that are doing this to me will just keep on doing it until I die, until I develop cancer, until the moments that it's going to be the end of my life. And that's the objective. They are doing this from a very evil core, from a very evil place. These people do not believe in any kind of God. The harassments, the details, they beat the shit out of me. They get the information and everything that they want from me, beating me on the streets, physically, the electronic devices, so abusive to get me to say anything they want because I'm just pleading for my life. And then they use that information against me, only against me, because it benefits them. And it's not to help me, it's to persecute me. But I thought I'd make a video on that. When I went to the governor's office, I can't repeat myself enough, to speak to Ted Cruz. He wasn't available. I did see him when he was walking and with a group of security guards or whatever. I guess he was going to a meeting or something. But they have some sort of like tea or coffee visits from public occasionally, a few times a week or something like that, to talk about whatever. But when I went in there, nobody was in there, and I spoke to that lady and I gave her my information, and I spoke to her a couple of times over the email, trying to schedule a visit to see what was available. She knew. I don't think she really worked there. She knew who I was. And what's so crazy is I keep thinking to myself, I want to say she gave me her name was Michaela. And I said, what's your name? But it wasn't Michaela. Because if they're using my mom's identical twin and my biological mother to confuse me, and Jillian's a twin and Marco's a twin, and they didn't tell me anything, why wouldn't they use this girl to try to confuse me? Because let me tell you, this girl was beautiful. I mean, this girl, any guy would want her. Any guy would want her. She was beautiful. Like 100%, she looked like a supermodel. It wasn't Michaela, but she looked like a supermodel. Like I really thought that she worked. And she wasn't in any way. She looked very taken care of in a way that it wasn't just attractive, like a strip club or a topless dance. She looked very professional, extremely attractive, and she knew who I was. And I thought I would say something, because I want to say she could have said her name was Michaela, and I think they were trying to figure out when I was in the governor's office whether I knew who Michaela was, because what are the chances of a girl like that looking like exactly like Michaela and saying that her name was Michaela? Because I know it wasn't her. It wasn't her, but it looked a lot like her when I go in there. But I don't remember if she did say her name was Michaela or not, but I want to say I think she did. But I don't remember. It was just an email. She gave me a business card or wrote a piece of paper, her email, and said, here, email me and see if we could schedule a visit with the governor. And for some reason I couldn't. I tried scheduling. I was told that he was off one day. He was taken on vacation, or I don't know what it was. Ended up never setting up a visit to talk to the governor to figure out there's something that I don't know about the law systems, because there are people in the governor's office and Congress that can change laws and whatnot, and assist the lawyer helps. Because I wanted to see if I can get a lawyer and attorney. There's different kinds of attorneys, Congress attorneys, lawyer attorneys. I'm not familiar at all with that world. But I'm trying to remember if she said her name was Michaela. Because they would have tested me to see if I knew who Michaela was. Because if they saw me react like, oh, that's Michaela, Michaela's my sister, they would have known. They know that I would have said something. Because eventually, when I went back about a year and a half ago, when I was in Lawrence, Kansas, after going to Auschwitz in Poland to see the death concentration camps, Auschwitz-Birkenau, I went straight back to Lawrence, Kansas community shelter. And I told all the staff members, I said, I went there to look for Michaela. How could I reach out to her? And I was told that Michaela no longer worked there, and that she found a better opportunity at a different company or a different place. And that I told the employees there, and I said, Michaela is my sister. And I didn't know that this was my sister, and I don't know what else I said. Very likely I said, I'm kind of preoccupied because I think they're going to go after her, or what was the reasons behind all this situation. Like, I don't know the details, but I do know that there was some terrorizing that Michaela looked like she knew there were some real bad people circling around me and her. And I think that the only reason that she possibly showed up was because, not only because it's my sister and I'm her biological brother, but because there was bad things that were circling around her. Because if her life was fully content and fully happy and all this money, they probably would have kept it that way. Who's to say, or maybe put her in a bad situation, because then she can't contact and help me. She's too busy doing other things. So I thought I would say something about this, because it's a tremendous amount of effort on her part, and I don't know exactly the stories to it. But I do know that she knew there were some bad people. There were some bad people that were doing it to her. One guy that I remember giving her a dirty look that I caught, that they didn't saw that I looked and caught this. There was a blonde hair, blue-eyed guy that looked resembling Ken Cooper, right? But he was really young, like 20 years old. And we were all testing for COVID. This is during the COVID period of time. And when we were all waiting in line, sitting in chairs, waiting to be tested for COVID, they had a special office, and they were getting everybody's saliva glands or whatever. And I saw Michaela walk in there, and she walked in there, and she looked at this blonde-haired guy that looked very much like the guy that I saw over at the Magic Time Machine that she brought with her, sat at the dinner table, and it was just this guy. And this guy didn't look straight at all. I mean, this guy was gay. But I didn't say anything when I saw him at the Magic Time Machine, and they didn't look like they were the best of friends. But I remember Michaela just looking over at me like, wow, that's my brother. And she was like, wow, that's my brother. And she was talking to this guy and then looking over at me and looking at this guy. And this guy looked like he was telling her something. I don't know, like information kind of. And it was very soft, simple talk. But when I saw her at the Lawrence, Kansas, when I'm 37 years old and the COVID is going on, this guy in this office looked like that guy, and he looked over and he had a clipboard and he looks at her and he gave her a real angry, evil, mean look. And he goes, and he looked at her like, no, you don't, like angry. And she looked at it and she looked right at him and was like, what did you just say? What did you just do? Like, he was trying to order her to tell her what to do. I saw this, and I happened to look in the office in corner when I was just to look randomly, and I saw what had happened. But I thought I'd make a video on this. So I don't know. I want to say, I think this girl's name was, did she tell me her name was Michaela? And she was sitting at the governor's office. I want to say, I swear her name was Michaela. I'm going to try to call the Washington, D.C., that same office, the Senator Governor's office. They'd be able to tell me if that employee worked there and what her name was. My phone is tapped. They're going to lie or they're going to prevent in any kind of way. They're going to prevent me in any kind of way. But it's worth me trying to give a call to find out, did she say her name was Michaela? Because she gave me a fake name and she didn't have a business card. I asked her for a business card. When a person actually works for a company, they'll have a business card. She didn't have a business card. She just wrote it on like a little piece of paper, like on a little tab note. And I said, do you have a business card? And it made me think to myself, like, how come you don't have a business card? You work for a governor's office. But I didn't say that. I was like, okay, well, maybe she just started or something. And I was just kind of thinking that to myself. She probably just started or something. But I want to say she said her name was Michaela. That's crazy. I'm not sure exactly, but I want to say she said her name was Michaela. But it wasn't Michaela. It wasn't her. Because if they're fooling me with my biological mother and didn't tell me about Julia, they would very likely, and all this attention stuff was going, they would have done it there too, like anywhere else. But she said her name was Michaela. And she was very conservative and seemed very professional, intelligent, very professional. And I mean, the best way I could say, she looked like a supermodel. She looked absolutely like a trophy winning wife, girl. And she was probably about 27 years old. And she talked to me, and she looked at me, she was waiting, and then she looked at the computer, and it's a TV screen, like, and she was sort of upset. So I don't know if it has something to do with maybe someone victimized her in pornography or videotaped her, or there was a porn star that went after her, or several of them, or someone I don't know in the background. But she said her name was, I want to say her name, why did a girl give me a fake name that her name was Michaela in the governor's office in Texas? And she wasn't the direct assistant to Ted Cruz. She was just a front desk person. And Ted Cruz is Latin. He's Cuban or Puerto Rican. I'm going to say he's Cuban. He's in Cuba. And he had like a Cuba flag, obviously the American flag, but I think he had some representation of Cuba. And so he takes pride in Cuba or Puerto Rico, one of the two. But like I said, I want to say she told me her name was Michaela. That's why she said her name was Michaela. Why does she keep me a fake? Because they're trying to see. I don't know what they're trying to do, who it is. She told me her name was Michaela and she's in the governor's office. I'm going to call and see if I can find out what names of employees worked there during that time. They could tell me, but they're not going to be able to reach to that front desk or whatever. But, or able to reach the front desk, and they're going to tap my phone. Like I said, they're tapping my phone, they'll rewire my phone calls, impersonate someone, and they'll act real violent over the intercom of the phone, so that I'm not reluctant to be able to have a conversation to deter me from any defense or protection for my life or more information. But I thought I'd make a video. I just now starting to realize she did give me her name. And I want to say Michaela because Michaela is not a common name. Hector, John, Richard, Nick, Jack, or, Anthony, Jeremy, or those are very common names, American names. Michaela is not a common name. Michaela is not a common name. It's not a very common name at all. And for someone to have me named Michaela to work in that office, I always expect, they're very clean cut in governor's offices, usually formal names, first names. And I I don't remember exactly. I'm like 80% sure she told me her name was Michaela. But she didn't give me her last name. I don't know if she gave me her last name. Did she also say Lisa? Because when I talked to Michaela at Lawrence, Kansas, she said her name was Michaela Lisa. And I know her name was Michaela. For sure. 1,000%. I'm 100%. Her name is Michaela. But was her name Lisa? Lisher? Because I want to say that I remember being the governor's, and I'm trying to remember the little note that she wrote her name on, and it said her last name and first name. I'm like 80% sure she said Michaela, and I don't know if she said her last name was Lisa, and I think she did. You know, I'm 37 years old. Why wouldn't she give me that name? She's in the governor's office. Nobody was in that office. It's a very clean cut office when you went in there. I mean, it's as professional and clean as you can imagine. You walk in there, but she was in there all by herself. There was nobody in Cruz's office. There's nobody in the couches, you know, in the big room. No, maybe one or two people up and down the hall. Maybe one security guard, or maybe random people walking. But she was all by herself. Why would she say her name was? I'm not sure exactly. I'm not 100%. I'm like 80% sure she said her first name was Michaela. And I'm trying to remember her last name. Why would she give me the same first name and last name she did the girl in Lawrence, Kansas? Because they're playing this confusing part of, oh, your mom's the identical twin. Oh, your mom's triplets. Oh, your biological mother. This is what my biological mother looks like. This is my biological mother. This is my real biological mother right here. The lady that has been posing herself as my biological mother for the last 20 fucking years, and I didn't find out until 20 years later, or if not more. That was my mother's identical twin, doing the ruthless, like the evil twin, doing, I don't know who was telling her to do what and the details, but that was not her. This is my biological mother. She does not look, you can tell that they look different. You can tell that my mother here does not look exactly the same as my mom's biological identical twin. You can tell they don't look alike. I'm telling you, they don't look exactly alike. You can tell they look different. They looked a lot like each other because they're identical twins, but you can tell they don't look the same. You can tell pretty well, drastically. You could pretty tell if you were to put them stand next to each other, you could tell they look quite different. They, you know, it's weird when you look at identical twins because when you look at them and that's how they look exactly alike, but you can tell there's a difference. There's a greater difference between them two than I've seen in other twins. Because you know how they have a twin competition to see how close alike can two twins look like each other. My mother wouldn't win that contest at all, and but I thought I'd make a video because this is my biological mother. But I thought I'd make a video. I needed to make a video on that because why was Michaela? Why would she give me her name? Michaela in the governor's office. And it wasn't Michaela. I know it wasn't. I mean, it would be crazy if it was just maybe. Yeah, it wasn't Michaela. It looked just like her, though. It looked just like her. And she was, but the thing that's even more wild about this, she was wearing the same dress. Not the same top, I think it was, but she was wearing the same tan caramel dress, long dress, as she wore when I saw her in Lawrence, Kansas. I want to say she told me her name was Michaela, because when she told me her name was Michaela, I'm like, that doesn't really sound like a person that works for the government's office. And I'm like, that's not a name. I would think like a Austin or like a Jeremy or like something like that. But Michaela, and I want to say her. I want to say that I said her name was. The reason I say that, I think her name was Lease Her, because when she said her last name, I thought lease. Like, oh, do you want to go ahead and lease her? Do you want to go ahead and lease her out, sell her? So she gave me possibly a fake last name, and I typed up Michaela Leaser on Facebook, and there's like 2 or 3 accounts that are Michaela Leaser, and they look exactly like her, but they're transgenders. They look exactly like her, and but they're transgenders. They look hair something similar, with a blonde hair, blue eyed guy that I saw and I know it's not her, but I know what Michaela looks like. That's wild. This is in the governor's office. What is she doing why is someone telling me her name in the governor's office? In Congress? Let me tell you something. It's a highly secured place to walk into the Congress. When you walk in there, when you walk to go talk to, they have all these offices down these halls, all elegant, of like the governor for Nevada, the governor for California, the governor for, Oklahoma, the governor of, Montana. Each state has their own office and has their governor. And when you walk in there, you have to wait in line, and there is a huge. When you walk in there, there's a very big, thorough body check. They check for weapons, IDs. There were security guards. You put your backpack through a metal machine that they can see everything that's in there. They go through my backpack. That girl that walked in there, I looked very homeless when I walked and saw her. I looked like a homeless bum. I looked like a homeless bum when I walked in there. I had a big beard, green pants, all like I had been sleeping under a bridge. I didn't smell. I had a dirty backpack. I looked like I'd been sleeping under a bridge. I didn't look like I was in the best of life circumstances. And you could tell by this person when she saw me that I was pleading for my life. I was like, can you help me? I need to speak to somebody that can help me, to tell me who's responsible. And I didn't want to go into a huge elaboration with Michaela, or with this girl that said her name, I think was Michaela. She was 100% female. There is not an ounce of 100,000%, 100% female. And I thought, who knows? Like, it's wild. Like, I saw Michaela, and I'm like, she said her name was Michaela, because I remember thinking to myself, when she said her name, Lease Her, we're in a room with a bunch of paperwork, executive paperwork that gets done and sent all throughout the world in the U.S. for laws, changes, construction projects, whatnot. And I thought, people have been giving me fake names a lot of times. Constantly, they're tapping my phone, shooting me electronic devices. Afterwards, I went to go eat at the cafeteria. But when she said the reason I said I can't remember her last name, but I do remember when she said her last name, I was just like, lease her. And she said, lease her. She said, like, lease her. And she looked over at me. And she goes like this, and she goes, like she was trying to protect her private parts when she said that. Because when she sat down, she goes, she said her Michaela? I said, yeah, lease her. And she goes, like, kind of like trying to protect her pride. It's like her womanhood. Whoa, that was the governor's office. I'm like 90% sure she said her name was Michaela, but I don't remember. The reason I think she said her name was Lisa, because I thought of paperwork when she said her last name in a way that somebody was. And she then did this. She was kind of like closed her leg like this, and like then looked at the TV, looked at the computer monitor like this, like somebody had victimized her. I thought I'd make a video on this. I gotta go to the dentist office. I'm heading over there right now. about the video I made about my filling fell out and they shot these horrific electronic devices on the side of my face. So I'm gonna go. Gotta rent taxi. I've already booked it. They're gonna pick me up at 4:30 in Swalton at the dental clinic to take me, and it's $20 or it's $18.50 is what they told me. So I'm gonna go there. Um, it's free exams to see how much I have insurance, so hopefully they'll be able to fix this. And but it's a exam, it's a X-ray and exam, and probably like a free cleaning like they usually always do. But um, they're going to tell me how much it is to fix or to help do the fillings on there, because I can't eat food right now. I'm having trouble eating food. Um, so I don't know what to expect. I got to take the bus and head out there right now. It's one bus to get to Chopper's grocery store, and then I got to wait there 20 minutes, and it's supposed to be another bus that picks me up, takes me all the way to Swanton, and that's like a 30-minute bus drive, I think. It's like a 30-minute bus drive up north. So it's very close to the Canada border. So I'm going to go there. The dental visit is at 2 p.m. I don't remember the doctor's name, but I'll make a video on the visit that and everything that goes on from there and back.